Hey everyone, this is Doug C. Brown with the CEO Sales Strategies Podcast. We've got a great episode. If you have some invisible blocks that are holding you from growing your sales to where you want them to go, or you're an overcommitted entrepreneur right now, where you're just like, the business is on you, but you want the business to be a system and a process, guess what? There's some invisible blocks that are holding on to you, and they all stem down from your belief system. We're going to speak with Andrea about that just in a moment. Those of you who would like to join our newsletter, please reach out to www.ceosalesstrategies.com/newsletter and join our newsletter. We put really great content out for you. If you want to talk to me directly, Doug at ceosalesstrategies.com is the email address. Let's go speak to Andrea right now. Hey, Andrea, welcome to the CEO Sales Strategies Podcast. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Doug.
So, folks, we were talking, and Andrea and I are kind of, I would say, we were somewhat neighbors when we were growing up, but long distance neighbors. And now you are in Indianapolis, Indiana, correct?
That is where I am.
And
yes.
So the question really becomes, are you still a Red Sox fan, a Bruins fan, and a Celtics fan?
I am definitely a Red Sox fan, definitely a Bruins fan. Celtics, I had to switch to the Pacers. We've lived here for 25 years. I kind of had to switch to the Pacers. But then when it comes to football, I could still be a Tom Brady fan. I could.
But
the Colts are not really very good these days. So neither are the Patriots. So I mean, I can go back and forth. But Red Sox and Bruins for sure.
All right, that's 66% anyways.
Yes.
So, now we're going to do this on the invisible driver of success in general, but in sales success. And if you're, folks, if you're an overcommitted operator right now, and how do you kind of unleash your business to become more of a working on the business, working on your sales versus in the sales process? Andrea, why don't you give people kind of your background, let's set the frame for this.
Sure. So I work with mostly females, but some males, founders and CEOs on a daily basis. And really what I am helping them with is staying in that CEO mindset. So our brain wants to go to, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? What actions do I need to take? And I always kind of say, okay, wait, stop. What are you thinking? Right, before we get to the actions, let's go back and check what your thoughts are behind the actions. So that is where this to belief thing comes into play. And for about 10 years, I worked for a company where I was recruiting and hiring and training what they were calling kind of like new franchise owners. Legally, they weren't franchise owners, but we're going to say that for all intensive purposes here. And I stayed there for 10 years. And after 10 years, I'd had it, I quit. But at that point, I hired my first coach, and she kind of quizzed me into, why did I stay for so long? You must have been something. And what it came down to is I really determined what I loved was doing, they called training, but really coaching people through the messy middle of their business, where, they're seeing success. They are profitable. But now all of a sudden things feel overwhelming, and how they started is not how they can continue to go. They can't be the salesman, the operator, the virtual assistant, they can't do all the things. So helping them get through that place. And in 2018, I started my own business, coaching and consulting business owners. So that's kind of the quick version. I also have written a book, and I have a podcast too. So, you and I are friends.
We were almost neighbors growing up. What are you talking
about? I know.
So all right. So here's what I got. You got female entrepreneurs that you kind of specialize in. We'll say 66-33 men. I don't know. Maybe.
Sure. Well, that's going to be our percentage for this whole podcast. 66-33.
I'm still not 66% with Tom Brady right now, just so you know. So that I'm throwing that one off. But
okay.
And I know that feeling of growing a business, getting it to 5, 10 million, 20 million, whatever, and then all of a sudden it's like, the business has me. I don't have the business. right?
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, I built a very expensive mistress that I get only aggravation from, right?
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
and and you know, targeting the thoughts behind the actions. I'm forever preaching this to people, you know, because they don't really think about this as the challenge is, they think it's a business challenge. So behind every business challenge, I have always found there's a personal something challenge that goes on,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yes.
So you're targeting that aspect of that, as well as helping them get the systems, processes, budgets, forecasts, all of these things into the business. And by the way, folks, if you just didn't write all that down, write it down, because if you scale your business up to a certain point and you try to run your business like that and you try to scale it up to 50 million, you will be out of your mind trying to do that by the
Mm-hmm.
time you even get your first 3 to 5 million going. It's interesting we're having this conversation. I just had this conversation with a business owner and their consultant, which is they were missing this point. So this is a very common problem, very common situation. We were not taught this in grade school, high school, or even college. So let's dive into what the heck forms these beliefs that cause that invisible, stoppage of the success going. Where do they form? I'm going to say in the childhood, in our childhood, but I don't know. Maybe I'm off. But where do they?
Well, I mean, there are some beliefs, of course, that are formed in our childhood, but I think no one's really thinking about selling things necessarily in the way you and I might be thinking about selling right now as adults. Um, I say that belief is really the invisible multiplier. And I like to say we can replace our to-do list with a to believe list. So if you think about it, I mean, everybody's got a to-do list, right? And if you look at your to-do list, there's probably, I don't know, more than 10, but hopefully less than 100 things on it, right?
Yep.
And how many of those things on that to-do list are really aligned with your vision of your business? The majority of those to-do list things are minor tasks, right? But they're nagging. They hang out. We want to cross them off. We get that hit of dopamine when we can cross them off.
Hmm.
But if you kind of dig deeper into more of your inner dialogue of what you believe might be possible, the inner dialogue that drives the outside results, okay, then you're going to, if in write some of those down. I call it like create a to believe list. What are the things that you need to believe in order to reach the level of success you're looking for? If you can shift and write those beliefs down, that to-do list is going to form itself, right? It's going to, if you believe that, if you continue to follow up with someone and keep, creating conversation. I always like to say, connection creates conversation, creates clients,
Mhm.
right? So if you can stay on that path, you're going to know what to do. And that's why this to believe list concept, I think, is so important. And it's especially relevant for founders who are leading sales themselves, or they're coaching kind of a small sales team. When belief is missing, selling feels very forced and reactive. But when belief is built, the messaging feels much more authentic. Objections kind of dissolve, and those conversations convert into clients.
I want to delve into the beliefs a little deeper, but what I'm hearing is what we think, how we are thinking creates a belief system.
Yep.
And that belief system guides our language, language controls discussion, discussion controls conversation, conversation controls outcomes, right?
Yes. Yes.
So, so,
Yes.
and I firmly believe in what you're saying. So here's my
Good.
question. What kind of beliefs are we talking about here? Like,
Yeah.
because I imagine there's some contrarian point of views going, well, I believe Tom Brady would never leave the New England Patriots, but he did, right? So,
Right.
um, um,
Right.
so
I
I,
would, okay, I'll give you want me some examples.
yes.
Here's an example. Okay. So you might have to, you're a founder leading and you're leading a team. Our service creates real transformation for clients, right? That could be a belief. And it's so, these beliefs don't have to be complicated. That's a pretty simple one. Our service creates real transformation for clients. Or my price reflects the value delivered, not just the hours invested. Okay. Or I'm not bothering people, I'm offering them a solution. I mean, these are all kind of sales 101 beliefs, right? They're not super duper complicated. When you get clear on what you need to believe and then actually choose to believe it, right? Everything changes. Your messaging gets sharper, your conversations feel more natural, the results compound, I think. So none of this is like rocket science. Okay. They're pretty simple. And I always like to say, if you have 5 core beliefs, you're probably on the right track. You don't need 500. Um, and I this morning I was working with a team who had the right process, I would say, like the right system in place, but they're not closing new clients. And I realized that the repetitions of all of this didn't really um they were going through motions, but they weren't really believing that their product solved the client's problem better than the competition,
Mm-hmm.
right? So once we built out together a to believe list and we worked through it, their conversion rates doubled in a quarter. So it was like the same script, but a totally different mindset. So it's kind of like you're shifting the software running in the background. Like the slides and the scripts out front are the interface, but the belief is the operating system.
Yeah, so belief is going to create conviction when we believe
Yep.
it, right? So
Yep.
if we have conviction, then we act as if, when we act as if, we now have more confidence.
Correct. So we could have a whole discussion about what confidence is too, right?
I would love to, because confidence is sexy, right? Confidence,
Yeah.
people are drawn to people who are confident. And folks, if you ever wondered why the jerk when you were going through school was always ending up with the pretty gal, it's because he had
Mm,
confidence. And
yeah.
or maybe he didn't, but he displayed it. And
Right.
and so, I have found confidence is, well, firstly, when we're selling, who wants to buy from somebody who lacks confidence and conviction in what they're trying to sell? Right?
Right.
It's like, oh yeah, you should have this house. It's probably good for you. Like, it's like if a realtor was coming in and saying that without, this house is amazing. Could you imagine, here's what I see in the house that works for you. Do you see that? Yes, you do. Oh, and I'm
Yeah.
fully confident that you and your family are going to enjoy this. Right? There's a very different conversation that happens
Hmm.
internally and externally. And that's what I'm hearing. The internal is controlling the external, which I know this is about 60% of sales success.
It
And
is.
well,
It,
look, I always have said this throughout my career. I'm not, and and I know all of you are going to be surprised that listen to the show. I'm not the best salesperson in the world. I've worked with some of the best salespeople in the world. But what I'm really good at is I'm good at being very confident about what I'm selling and building lots of rapport with people
right.
and identifying whether or not this is right for them or not right for them, and then disengaging if it's not and continuing to pursue if it is. And
Yes.
so, that formula has helped me sell darn close to $1 billion worth of stuff. So the reason I'm not being arrogant or braggadocious here, I'm backing up what you're saying, Andrea, which is that belief system turns into our actions, turns into what we say, turns into the conversation we're having. And if we're having a conversation from scarcity
Hmm.
and we're internally feeling scarce, we use language patterns that reflect that.
Hmm.
And
I always say that confidence is really the willingness to feel every feeling.
ooh,
So
that's a nice
confidence
definition.
is really the willingness to feel every feeling. So, you know, if you're if you're bringing doubts into the conversation, like, will the client pay this price? Is my team ready? What if they say no? That inner chatter seeps into the outer message, right? Like you were
Yes.
saying. Okay.
Yes.
So, you know, if the client says no, okay, what if they do say no? They say no. Well, you're going to feel shitty maybe for 20 seconds, right? And then you're going to move on to the next guy. So, are you willing to feel that? Are you willing to take no, right? And if you're not willing to do that, then you don't even have the confidence to have the conversation in the first place. So I like to say, like, you've got to be willing to experience the whole array of feelings and still move forward.
So how? That's the question I think is looming in people's mind.
How do we move
How
forward?
do I reframe this? Like I don't like rejection. Right? I don't.
Do you know anyone that likes rejection, Doug? Have you met anyone like that?
A few people in prison. Not that I was in
Okay,
prison,
okay,
but I was visiting someone.
okay. You're visiting. All right.
Uh,
So I think the way you reframe it, so the name of my podcast and the name of my book is She Thinks Big. So oftentimes when I'm on podcasts, people ask me, what is big thinking? Okay. So I say there's 5 tenets of big thinking, and I use the word trust as an acronym. And that first T in trust stands for thought options. So how do you reframe this? You pick a different thought option. So the way I think about that or visualize it is, you're at a wedding and there's past hors d'oeuvres, and this waiter is walking around and he comes up to you and he says, puts the tray in front of you and he says, take one. And you look down at the tray and you're like, oh, should I have, the shrimp cocktail, the bruschetta, the spinach square? What should I have? Pigs in a blanket, right? That tray is like a tray of thought options. So what option are you going to choose? What option are you going to choose? It doesn't have to, what option is going to serve you or what option is going to be useful. So it's probably not useful to think that guy said no because he thinks my product is horrible, right? Not a good option, right? Maybe we think that guy said no because he feels it is not the right product for him. Okay, next, right? So you get options.
so to that point, folks, if you lose a sale, ask why,
Right, right. Yes. Ask why. Exactly.
right?
Ask
Because
why.
I cannot tell you how many people, I mean, it's insane how many people don't ask why. Like they say no and they're like, okay. And they go off on their own. And it's like, why didn't you just ask why? Because if you're getting the same thing, like, hey, you had spinach in your teeth 10 times, you know not to go to lunch before you go to the appointment anymore, and you won't have that challenge, right? So head off
Right.
the objections before they get there. So, okay, so we have thought options. I like the tray idea because it's very visual and people can
Yeah.
say, okay. So what I'm hearing is I only want really good options on that tray. That's for my own
Yeah.
inner self, right?
Yes. For your own inner self, you only put things on that tray that I say are useful or are going to serve you and
Okay.
that are going to give you a feeling that's going to lead to an action that is going to get you the result you want. Right.
Okay.
So if someone says no, okay, I mean, short of trying to convince them into a yes, but let's just say they're a no. What do you want from that? You want to be able to move on to the next guy with no baggage, right? Okay, who's next? All right. So thinking that, what you have to offer isn't great or you didn't do a great job in the sales process, like, not helpful. Those aren't helpful thoughts.
No, no, but if it's true, if we didn't do a good
Oh,
job,
if it is true,
last week,
right. If it
right?
is true,
That's why
that's
we
a whole
ask
other
why.
story. That's why you have to ask why. That's why I do have to ask why. But um even knowing that why is very useful,
Sure.
right? Do I need to adjust something? Do I need to change my approach? Like, who, maybe you do. Okay.
Maybe our beliefs aren't in alignment with what they value.
Correct. Right. So I think knowing you've got thought options and then knowing that really the thing getting in your way of a yes is oftentimes a feeling, right? Their feeling or your feeling. So like you
Sure.
said, if no one wants to buy something from someone who's not confident, right?
Agreed.
So that could be getting in your way.
What's the R? So thought
So the
options?
R stands for real problem. So all big thinkers, I like to say, recognize that the real problem 99% of the time is just a feeling that you don't want to experience.
Ah, so the old Tony Robbins, they'll do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
fair.
Yes. So that's what I say the real R stands for. U stands for unknown or uncertainty. So big thinkers, they embrace, they just know there's unknowns and uncertainty. And that's just kind of life, right? I mean, we're not gonna, the people that say, I'm gonna think about it, right? So, Doug, whatever you're selling me is amazing. Sounds perfect. But listen, I'm just gonna think about it and I'll get back to you. Right? So, all right, I like to think the name of my book is She Thinks Big. I'm not opposed to thinking, but usually what's going on there is we're having this inner dialogue with ourselves, trying to justify whatever decision we're making, right? So, big thinkers recognize that we're never going to be able to 100% know the outcome of anything until we experience it. Or we're not going to know if this is exactly the right thing until we do it or move forward. So, all big thinkers recognize that they just have to embrace the unknown or the unexpected or the uncertainty. Could be the
Fair.
U could stand for any of those. So that's what the U stands for in trust. S, I like to say, is secure support. So there aren't too many big thinkers out there, and we could think about big thinkers in terms of, societal big thinkers, like who's out there in the world proclaiming they're a big thinker, or we could think about who's in our backyard, right? It doesn't matter. But none of those people are doing it alone. Like they really aren't doing it alone. They have secured some sort of support. And lean on the support, use the support, and recognize kind of like two brains are better than one, that kind of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So I say that's what the S stands for. And then the T in trust stands for take action. So take massive action versus passive action. So passive action in my book is listening to a podcast, although I like podcasts, reading a book, but just reading it, not doing anything with it, spending 5 million hours on ChatGPT or Google or whatever, trying to search for the answer, like the Holy Grail,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's all passive action. Are you actually taking massive action? Are you having a conversation? Are you putting yourself out there? Are you okay being uncomfortable? The proverbial phrase there, get comfortable with uncomfortable. But you've got to be actually taking the action. I love it when I get on a call with someone and they say, I've been doing so much, but just nothing's working. And you're like, what exactly have you been doing? Let's go through this. Tell me. And
So
when you dissect it, there's nothing really there.
yeah, so we're talking what I always teach people, look, from if you're starting out, 90% of your time has to be on two activities: lead flow and workflow, right? So
Mm-hmm.
workflow being sales conversations, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
everything to convert that conversation. So what I'm hearing, if I hear you correctly, is you're saying that they're passively they're on ChatGPT. They're doing all the
Yeah.
things that's not in that 90%. They're in the 10%, but instead of it being 90-10, it's 20, 30, 70 or something
Yes.
like that. Yep. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So if I'm stuck, I'm at a place right now and I'm like, okay, conceptually, all this makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I got to change my thoughts. I need different options,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm on autopilot, likely. How do I, like, what's the first step?
All
Like,
right. So I think there's three things. There's three
yeah.
things. Number one, you have to really audit your current beliefs about your sales, your offer, your team. You got
Okay.
to do an audit. Like what's rolling around in that head? Okay. Number two, you've got to write out that to believe list, 5-ish beliefs that you need to hold in order to sell with conviction. And I think the third thing is you have to share and really reinforce those beliefs with your team until they kind of become your default mindset. That's what you default to.
Got it.
because the belief or the confidence is really what is selling, and your team is never going to sell beyond their level of belief. Right. So that to believe list kind of could be like the new sales playbook in a way. It's like mindset before the messaging.
Mm, mm. It's kind of like the community of the village, and back when bridges were being built, they didn't think that they were strong enough to handle, a car driving over
Yeah.
or something like that, right? And so the town wouldn't go across with their vehicles or something like that.
Right.
And I think it was, I don't know, it wasn't P.T. Barnum, but it was no, Andrew Carnegie, if I remember correctly, because he built a steel bridge and he walked an elephant over the bridge.
Yes. Yes. I think
And
it was the Brooklyn Bridge. Wasn't it the Brooklyn
was
Bridge that
it
he did
Brooklyn?
this?
I'm
Yeah.
not, you would know
Yes.
probably more than I would on that, but I remember the story. And then when the elephant went over, people went, oh, well, okay, it's safe. We could drive a car over there, or we could,
Yes.
and so it's kind of like taking that, the world is flat. You'll fall off the edge. And then
Right.
somebody, comes around the world and it's like, oh, maybe it wasn't flat. Okay, great. And then
Mm-hmm.
giving the validation and proof to yourself that you're safe and secure in that situation. And then reinforcing it not only with yourself, but first you got to take an inventory to figure out where you are. And
Yes.
and then reinforcing it with yourself and others in the organization, and driving that through that process, changing the belief of the customer service department who had a previous belief that, oh, we should let that customer go because they were upset.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Okay, cool. That actually makes sense to me. And last question on this. I've changed everybody's mindset. So we say beliefs. Do they ever revert back? Do we ever go back? Like people.
Yes. Because we're human.
Ah,
Yes. That's the hard part, of course. But it's being, what I like to say, being an entrepreneur is really a journey in personal development disguised as an entrepreneurial adventure. Okay. So it's supposed to be all fun and games, right? But it's not. And your business can really only grow as fast as you are growing as a human and working on yourself, right? So you have to be able to kind of come back, pull in the reins, and assess. Like, do that audit again. What am I thinking? Where am I at? In my book, I have this diagram, that's figure is the official word, if you want to know, a figure where there's kind of like these loops, like loop-de-loops sort of. And there's a small one, and then the next one's bigger, and the next one's bigger. And, there's a messy middle in each of those, but the messy middle, the little dot that I say is the messy middle, gets smaller relative to the size of the loop.
mm,
So there's going to be a messy middle kind of in every stage. You're going to go back, you're going to revert back, like you said, but you're going to get better and quicker at identifying that and move on faster as time goes on if you are continuing to really work on yourself.
so business growth. If my business is growing, if it grows faster, I've got to continue to grow with it, or I'll stop the growth,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that simple. And human beings tended to go back to that place where they are most comfortable based on their belief systems. So if we don't
Yes.
adjust those belief systems, we aren't going to be in a different place. We're just going to keep reverting back over and over again. I was watching a documentary on the show, The Biggest Loser, and
Yeah.
how that came about. And people were getting massive weight loss. I mean, it was massive, them 400 pounds. Now they're down to 180 or something, in a short period of time. And I looked up after that documentary to see if there was any data, like how many people actually stayed at that weight. And 9% stayed at that weight.
9%.
9%, 9.2%, if I remember correctly, 9.2. So that means that essentially 1 out of 10 people, roughly, reverted back to the original weight they had, or were actually had more weight. And this is not to shame people who gain weight. That's not the point that I'm trying to drive, folks. What I'm trying to drive is your brain's just like that. And if your brain doesn't grow with the growth that you have, then we tend to go back to standard, that which we know, where we feel, even if we're not happy with it, we feel safe or secure in that place. And we kind of drop ourselves down on the, Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes, yes, yes.
And we get stuck there.
Yep.
And so the only way to do that is to challenge that belief. That's what I'm hearing, Andrea. We got to challenge our current paradigm of our beliefs by auditing first, and then identifying what those things are, where we want to go, and put your formula to work to drive to the next level. And then once you get there, you got to constantly reinforce it. Just like any, you can go to the gym for 6 months, look amazing, and then take 3 months off, and,
Correct.
and you're going to be back, maybe not to exactly where you are. Maybe you will, or worse, or a little bit better, but you're going to lose a lot of that growth.
Yep.
Okay. Makes total sense to me. Andrea, how do people find you, know more about you, if they would like to?
They can find me at a Red Sox game. No.
Yeah.
You can, the easiest way is to go to Andrea's with an S, links with an S, andreaslinks.com. And you're going to find a link there to my book and my podcast, my website. I'm on LinkedIn a lot. You can connect with me there, or on Instagram. That's my other favorite. And I'm always open for a conversation. So feel free to set up a call and we can chat just about anything. And I have a quiz on there too, which really helps you. I call it the silent saboteur. So what is sabotaging your business that's kind of lurking in the background that you kind of know is there, but you might not want to admit or see. So
yeah, so it's Andrea
Andrea's with an S,
with an S.
Andre.
Okay.
Yep. Andreas, links, links, links.com.
.com. Okay, we'll put that in the show notes, folks. Andrea, thanks for being here on the CEO Sales Strategies podcast. Anything else you'd like to leave the audience with? Like one or two major, like, do this going forward, besides go to andreaslinks.com?
I mean, you could, yeah. I would say one thing to follow up on this conversation, that belief is invisible, but your prospect feels it immediately.
Yeah, that makes total sense. You walk into a room and you feel confident, people immediately notice,
Yeah.
we're walking a little taller, chest out.
Yeah.
A
How do
little
you want to
more.
show up, right? How do
Yeah,
you want to show up?
that makes total sense. So folks, think about how your belief systems are affecting your day and impacting your life and your future, not only for yourself, but the people involved in your company or even in your household, because it's super important.
We could have done a whole podcast on that. So.
Well, maybe we will.
All right.
All right, Andrea. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So your beliefs really control, your thoughts control your beliefs, right? I mean, your thoughts, you're thinking, and then you're like, whoa, all of a sudden you believe this thing, whether it's true or not. Sometimes we believe, and when we really ingrain it, we're committed to that process. When we're committed to that process, we have confidence because we want security in that process. And that's kind of a loop that gets us in trouble, because the reality is it's great when it's true and it's serving us, but sometimes it's just not. And so when we keep repeating that behavior over and over and over, we get into a habit. When we get into a habit, we don't even know we're doing the activity or the action that is actually creating the stoppage of what we're trying to do. And the invisible driver now becomes something we don't want to go in that direction. It's that simple. First, you got to figure it out, like figure out the awareness, right? Audit the process. And once you understand what those are, then secondly, you create those and write them down on a list, just as Andrea said. Then thirdly, we've got to challenge that process and reshape that belief. Move it from a non-serving to a serving belief. And if you listen to this over and over and you just keep practicing that, it does take time, but things start to shift. And you could always reach out to Andrea if you want her help. If you'd like help with me, reach out to me at Doug at ceosalesstrategies.com. Be happy to help you. And if you would like to join our newsletter, www.ceosalesstrategies.com/newsletter. If you like this episode, please give it a 5-star review. I'd be forever grateful. The more reviews, the more people go, "Whoa, I should listen to this." And the podcast does what it's supposed to do. Until next time, this is Doug C. Brown with the CEO Sales Strategies Podcast saying, go out and sell something, sell a lot of it. Play win-win-win. Don't discount, provide value. The more you provide value in their perception, the more you will be able to maintain your margins in the process. Until next time, to your success.